Hello everyone, today we are thrilled to welcome a very special guest joining our today's talk show. It's Mr. Sean Hornby. So first of all, please introduce yourself a little bit to our audience.
Oh, hello. My name is Sean Hornby. I worked with the British Council in China for 5-6 years, 2-3 years in Guangzhou and 2-3 years in Shanghai. And I have examined thousands of candidates during that time and really enjoyed it.
You know that many IELTS candidates has been sending us a lot of concerns related to IELTS speaking tests. So I hope that today with your sharing, they can figure out the best way to conquer this special skill. So we have a lot of questions. So the really first one, what criteria do examiners use to evaluate the speaking test, and which criterion is the most important?
All right, so there's fluency, there's also pronunciation, and then there's your grammar, and then there's your lexical resource, which is, in other words, vocabulary.
And which one is the most important thing?
None of them are most important because they're all equally weighted and equally important in speaking and being understood in English.
Okay, yes. So regarding the fluency and coherence criteria, do hesitation affect the overall score?
Yes, if it is used in the wrong way, then it's going to affect the score.
Like how?
Just like what I just did. If it actually affects what's being said in a way where the student or the candidate is not using the right resource. Okay, so you see I was using lots of pauses there. And the best way to overcome that is to ask the examiner to have a moment, or let me think about that. Let me think. Okay, those are good strategies to overcome that.
Should candidates speak fast to sound natural?
Well, if they speak too fast, then they're going to have a little bit of a problem with pronunciation because only a native speaker can actually speak quite fluently when that person is speaking very quickly. So it's better to slow down a little bit if English isn't your first language, because a lot of non-native speakers are going to make mistakes in their pronunciation when they try to speak quickly because they don't or may not know the correct rules for pronunciation.
So what is your advice to keep the speed but still sound natural?
Well, everyone speaks at a different speed. My natural speed is fairly slow, so that makes me good as a teacher, but it may make me a little bit boring to other native speakers. So you have to speak in a way that is natural for yourself. Whatever is a comfortable speed for you, that should be your speed.
Yes, thanks for that. Is it necessary to use complex vocabulary to score higher in the lexical resourcing criteria?
And again, using complex vocabulary is something that I think is useful. It will stand out, but it has to be used in the right way. If you're not comfortable with a certain word, don't use it. If you've made mistakes with that word many times before, then leave it and try to use one that you're more comfortable using. That's the whole point, is to be natural when you speak. And if you're trying to artificially put words in there that don't really fit, or to show off it in that way, then it's not going to work for you. So you should be trying to use vocabulary that will, stand out for you, but don't force it. Just try to use it in a natural way. Use words that you're comfortable with. That will give you a better score.
So what grammatical structures should be used to score higher or better in the grammatical range and accuracy criterion?
Well, my favorite part of the exam is part 3. What we're talking with the candidates will be more abstract rather than concrete, like in part 1. Part 1 is very concrete. So there'll be questions like, where do you live? I live in an apartment. How many people do you live with? Things like that. Those are more factual, but in part 3, you have things that are more abstract. You have to use speculative language, which would be using like second conditionals and things like that. What would you do if someone hit your car? If someone hit my car, I would be upset,
Yes, right. And so does making a few grammatical mistakes affect the whole overall score?
No, because grammar only takes up about 25% of your total score. So you are going to, if you do well in the other 3 criteria, then you're not going to be too much affected. But yeah, it will lower your score slightly. It depends on how often you make mistakes and the types of mistakes that you make.
Okay.
Are they mistakes that native speakers often have, or are they ones that are very typical for people whose first language isn't English?
Okay. What factors do examiners consider when assessing pronunciation?
Oh, when assessing pronunciation, I think it impresses me when there's lots of blending being used and the right sort of intonation, especially in some languages like Chinese, where they think when they hear English it sounds very flat to them because it's a tonal language, and it might be the same for Vietnamese people as well, because they have a very nice tonal language. So if they are speaking like this, then they will have some problems with their pronunciation. So that is sounding more like an English teacher or a robot. The pronunciation's correct, but if you were to use those words individually, they would be pronounced correctly. But actually, when we use them in a sentence, there's a lot of sounds that the vowel sound especially changes to like something more neutral. And so then it's going to be a bit of a problem for them. They'll get a lower score if it's not used in a natural way.
So do you pay attention to the kind of intonation when you are examining?
Yes, if they're too flat when they're speaking, or if they're exaggerating too much. And I've had some candidates exaggerate way too much. That might pass, as enthusiasm or something like that. And of course, having enthusiasm is going to be welcomed by the examiner. But I think if it's got to sound natural, and if it doesn't sound natural, then it's going to get a lower score.
Okay. Yes. So the next question is, will candidates lose point if they have some regional accents?
Regional accents aren't a problem for examiners. Some candidates have problems with some examiners who have a regional accent. But, for example, if someone is Indian and has an Indian accent, it might be a little bit harder to understand that candidate. But examiners know that they have like a different intonation when they're speaking. And to native speaking Western people, Indian people, when they speak English, sound really fast. So we might have to ask them to slow down when they're speaking. But other than that, it's not really a problem. We have to consider that there are many different varieties of English. There's Australian, Singapore, Malaysian, North American, Canadian, and American English. And even within those countries, there are different varieties. So it doesn't affect, if you have a good examiner, that examiner will understand that that's a regional accent and it won't affect your score.
Yes, all right. So while answering questions in the test, when candidates realize they have just made a mistake with their pronunciation or with their structure, whatever, should they correct it, or by themselves or just ignore it and move on?
Doing that once or twice might be okay, but if you're often doing that, then it's an indicator that there's some problem with your English. If it's something that's serious, I think, then you should revise what you said in a clearer way. It's also indicative of a lower score, but keep in mind that natural speech includes mistakes. All native speakers make mistakes every day, often in tenses. Native speaking children will say, I go to the store instead of I went to the store. And if they're aware of the grammatical rule and understand that it's an irregular verb, then they can change it. It's best to keep the conversation going rather than correcting yourself a lot.
Okay. What is the most important advice for preparing for the speaking test? I mean, before the due date, a lot of candidates get really nervous and they don't know how to control their anxiety. So what is your advice for that?
I think having confidence in yourself, getting a good night's sleep the night before. You don't want to be tired. And also, when you're reviewing, it's best to have like a friend or someone else that you know that speaks English to have casual conversations. And once you arrive at the test center, it's always a good idea to be friendly with everyone and speak English with everyone that you see as well. And you can strike up conversations while you're waiting for your turn to go out to the examiner room. Getting yourself sort of in the zone of English is very important. You don't want to just suddenly start speaking English. That's when you'll be a lot more nervous. So that's the way to handle it, I think, is speaking English as much as you can, but casual conversations with people. Not something that seems so formal. Okay. You need to warm up.
Yeah, that's right. So I remember like a long time ago when I was about to be in the exam room, and I met the examiner outside the room, and then I tried to say, how are you? So that is like a warm-up activity so that I can be familiar with it a little bit before I answer a lot of questions about IELTS and things like that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your sharing today. That is all of the questions that we had. I hope that it has helped you to figure out the most effective way to improve your IELTS speaking test score. And if you like this video, please give us a like. And if you have more questions, please comment below. And we're gonna answer this in the next video. Bye bye for now.